Okay, finally. Looks like we are live. We are live. Here we go. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for waiting patiently. I'm excited to meet you all back on Friday. So, this is Sudha Live, and I'm Sudha Jamte joining you from Silicon Valley on my usual weekly roundup of the world of Gen AI and AI opportunities. And I typically do this where I look at what's happening in the week and I bring you some summary with some analysis because there's so much happening in Gen AI world. If you're out of it, if you're new to this, then it feels like you're missing out on it, especially if you are new and taken one of my courses or any of the other courses on Gen AI out there, then you're going to feel like, okay, I've got this now. What do I do next? And then, you'd have learned all the new terminologies and you're trying to go apply this in your companies, or you want to go figure out what kind of projects you can do. Some of you had actually reached out to me saying, what kind of projects can we do? Because this is my background. I spoke to somebody who had a very fantastic background in data center operations, and the same person had worked on Tesla in setting up the solar whole the business right at the beginning of the whole ideation stage. So it was quite a varied background, and this person had so much going. And then they said, okay, now if I'm looking at AI, what kind of project should I do? So it's very fascinating when you contact me. I appreciate that, especially as my students, because I teach using no code AI. You tend to come from various different business perspectives. So it's very, fascinating for me to kind of connect the dots and see. Sometimes I imagine when you're talking to me and I have this one person who's doing program management, one person who's doing business development, one person who's product manager, and one person is a data scientist saying, I want to understand the big picture, and a UX designer, because I also teach designers at Elisava University. It's very fascinating. I kind of imagine if we are all in the same conversation in a company, what does that look like? And I worked in technology industry for many decades, and that's how things are done. The ideation could start from many departments, and innovators are everywhere, and it doesn't matter. It's not like data science has to build this and then bring it to business, or a business unit has to come and say, okay, I have this data, how do I make sense of this? And that conversation, cross pollination especially, is very, very important with AI. So for those of you who are new, I usually bring events, jobs, call for papers and opportunities that you can get involved, so that you can actually do some project, do some research, something that gives you confidence and builds your portfolio. So that's kind of my approach. I'd say that to all my students. And if you're already working in a company and you're doing something with AI, you don't have to wait for somebody else to give you permission to come and go. Just straight away apply for a job. Every job is becoming an AI job. Every job is becoming an AI job. I've been saying this every week. So I'll challenge you, whatever job you are at. If you're here live, you can post a question or comment, and I'll tell you how you can make your job into an AI job. Let me come to LinkedIn and see you, because I see only the numbers. Let me see this. Let me close my other windows that are distracting me. Yes, all shiny objects distract me, and shiny distractions even in other windows, I see them. Okay, so usually I see those of you who are joining, I see you as a number. Thank you so much. And it's very, interesting when I'm watching and the numbers go up, and I know that there are, people behind that. But I would like to know who you are so that I can serve you better. So the best way to do this, if you're, I don't know what time zone and where you're joining, so you can just send an emoji based on our conversations. I'll try to keep some yes or no questions to, make your life easy. But ideally, if you add a comment or, respond to our conversation, that would be the best way that we can engage. And you can get better value, I would say. And I would love it for sure, And I would like to know, if have you taken my course? Have you taken one of my LinkedIn learning course? Are you coming or, coming from one of my courses at any of the universities I teach? Are you like, taken something else by which you've learned AI anywhere else and you are here because you're curious about what's happening in the Gen AI world and maybe you're career pivoting, right? Two things I want to focus on. So jobs, career, jobs, events, the calls, I'm going to do that. That's kind of my standard thing, right? And I don't random throw things around. There are like thousands of events happening in Silicon Valley. I try to keep a very global perspective because since I do a lot of online courses, many of you come from everywhere in the world, and I'm kind of very cautious that I just don't want to come and say this is what Silicon Valley is doing because that's one way of doing it. And then based on your different job role, you might have a different perspective, and that's where it gets interesting for me, right? So for those of you who are new, everything that I share here as a link and everything I don't share here, but I promise as reading material and jobs and stuff will be on the Jamte newsletter. So you can actually go to bit.ly/Jamte newsletter for this recording and all the links, right? That is the easiest way. And thank you, Peria Serin, for sending this out because Peria sends out the newsletter on Mondays. And if you see this later, if you want, you can tag a friend who can come and watch this later. I'll try and come and look at it because I get notifications, and I'll try and answer those questions if I'm able to see them. But for the most part, if you're here, that would be great. If you sign up for the newsletter and look at it, you can actually come reply back and respond also, and I'll be able to engage or answer your questions much better. I don't like this setting where it's not showing me in full in the screen. I have my friend David Kerrigan who's written more books than me, and he writes books about every possible topic. And one of the things David wrote was about this whole live setup when you're doing Zoom, and we all ended up doing a lot Zoom and other teams and stuff post COVID. And he wrote this book on the right lighting and the setup. And one of the things I always think of you, David, when there is no gap between my head and the end of the frame. That's why you see me kind of moving moving my screen. So the thing I want to talk to you today is I'm not going to just go through a laundry list of the events and jobs and stuff so that you can catch in the Jamte newsletter. But what I'm going to focus on is two topics that's been on top of my mind. And then before I close out I'm going to give you the events and stuff. There are thousands of events, but I just don't try to get a laundry list. I don't random give you list. I do my homework on if I recommend a course, my course or any other course, I take those courses. If I'm talking about some tools and technologies, preferably I would have played with it, or I'm curious enough and I played a little bit and I'm asking you more questions about it so that we can kind of explore that together. Events, I actually recommend the ones that I think would be value for you. And so if I'm recommending something, I would like your feedback if you've looked at it. And see whether that is something that you've tried, you went, or you tried the course, or you tried the tool, whatever, right? I would like feedback because I kind of want to make sure that I'm not making bad recommendations and I'm not assuming things, okay? So having said that, so the two things that I think this would be interesting for us this week is one is I'm going to share about two projects that I've closed one chapter and I'm kind of opening another one. And so, and relative to that, I see a lot of opportunities and things happening in the AI, Gen AI world. So one is I've been teaching a lot of different courses on generative AI. So it all started out because I saw there is a call for a talk for a conference from UNICEF that's going to happen in Paris in summer, I want to say. And there's a call that's happening now in May. I think May 17th is a deadline for it, for educators to say, how are you using Gen AI in your jobs, in your universities, in your curriculum? And Are you already using Gen AI to help the students to become better learners? Are you using Gen AI as a tool? Are you using Gen AI for personalized learning? What is the way you're using Gen AI? Think about it. And it should be a project that you're already working on. So that got me thinking, because I think I was doing my AI course at Stanford for 5 years now. 4 years, 2020 I started. And so what the AI course I started in 2020. I've been teaching, a autonomous vehicle course or IoT course before that at Stanford Continuing Studies. So the AI course, I've had the usual curriculum and my routine on how I teach, what I do. And then ChatGPT launched. And so already I was preparing to teach my students about foundation models and what was Gen AI at that time, which is, in April, it looks like a lifetime given that things are happening in the Gen AI world. And so I'd written my book to become the class textbook to launch in April to coincide with the course. And then everybody who came in, and this time I had like hundreds of students in one class, and all professionals like you, wanting the latest, greatest in the AI world, and everybody was excited about Gen AI. So I switched to Gen AI, and I did the entire program on generative AI for product and business managers. And after that, I've done a bunch more in Gen AI courses and recordings and whatnot, live at Barcelona Technology Schools, a new AI program at Elisava School of Design, which is a combination of machine learning and Gen AI. And recently, I just wrapped up a project. I'm not allowed to talk about it yet because it's not yet live. Doing a recorded course. So that will come as an on-demand course as part of a longer program that would teach AI. And my module is, generative AI using no code, which is the core module. Around that, there will be other content that will teach every aspect of AI for various industries and whatnot. But mine is the hands-on module that brings everything together. And so that's one I'm closing out. So I have some thought process on what I went through, and I want to know what kind of enterprise use cases I was thinking. I want to share some with you, and I want your thought process on that, because I have traveled last fall, visited some companies, and there was excitement about generative AI, especially given the ChatGPT hype at that time. After that, Gemini has launched, Mistral has launched, and there's this whole open source versus closed platforms hype, not hype question was floating around. That question is still there. And then Mistral said, oh, we are not all open source anymore. And then they kind of floated out. Cohere has come with Aya, and we have like hundreds of languages out there included in language AI in open source. So there's a lot of stuff that's happened. And I'm still telling you only one dimension. And then there's a model per day. And last week I was talking to you about how there are so many models, so many LLMs. What is going on? Why do we need so many LLMs? And then there's like so many regulations that's happening in parallel because there's so many LLMs and so many applications and promises, right? And so I'm going back to where I met the enterprise people, the innovators who were curious, and there were people in the team who were trying out different things with, at that point, it was ChatGPT. I think GPT 3.5 was out, and GPT 4 had just come out, and GPT 4 was promising that we won't use your data in our learning. But it was just a promise. But then the whole fine-tuning became bigger, and it became RAG and stuff, right? So RAG has exploded on the scene. And we have so many RAG architectures and the agent AI. I did cover agent AI in my class at that time in April. And now agent AI is like a big deal. Autonomous agents. So I put all of these together and did this course recording for my newest course. And I still get people asking me, can you give me a simple generative AI course and tell us where to get started? And so I'm just curious, what kind of enterprise use cases are you looking at? My favorite one always is about reducing customer churn. If you run a business, how do you acquire your customers? That's lead gen. How do you retain your customers? And manage, how do you retain your customers? There could be loyalty programs, you could build better products, you could go in many directions. But if you are interested in just sustaining your business, you need to know that your customers are coming in, you need to retain them so that they don't churn. So maintaining customer churn and looking at customer churn is a huge part of just running your business to become a successful business. Otherwise, you get more costs coming in to acquire customers, and then if they drop off, then this is like an endless cycle that's not going to manage your working capital. And so managing customer churn, how do you make sense of that? Different methods by which you can reduce customer churn. So one of my favorite questions is customer churn. Is that in the traditional AI, when we do machine learning, is it a classification problem or is it a regression problem? And it could go either way. So I'm going to come back to LinkedIn for those of you who are a number there. So have you worked with customer churn? Yes or no? So if you don't want to talk, you can send me one of those emojis up. And you think if customer churn is a joke, you can actually give me a laugh emoji, because I'm looking to get one of those laugh emojis one of these days in my life. I don't know. I will have to come up with some funny jokes, but I'm giving the serious topic of AI changing the world and finding jobs. So question for you is customer churn classification problem? Yes or no? Let's do that. Let's make it simple. Is customer churn a classification problem? Yes or no? Come on, guys. You can just give me a yes, support or clap or thumbs up or anything. Or if you, yeah, I see more people showing up. In fact, I remember many years back, maybe a decade back, I had done a talk called You Are a Number. This was with my friend Van Riper here in Silicon Valley. And we used to run a bunch of meetups, and he used to run the Google developer. It was not part of Google, but he used to run a user group of Google technologies, Google user groups, jugs or something it's called. And so, and then with him, I ended up doing a talk. He put together a whole bunch, and this was like a 5 minutes. They will it's called Ignite Talks. So they will give a topic, and then in 5 minutes they will shuffle our deck. So we talk on the topic, but they will shuffle the deck. So it could be anything within the topic that we are planning to cover. And I had done this thing called You Are a Number. So as I'm watching you as a number, I'm going to get to this, because the idea at that point, I think this was in 2009, I want to say. So social media was like new, and social platforms with Facebook, Twitter. At that point, we had Google Plus was a big deal. And so I was looking at how we are getting customer information from social media. We are getting behavior analytics, and everybody who has ever taken my class knows that I love data and I bring everything to data. And now with the world of AI, that's how I got into AI, because what do you do with all the data? You draw insights, and if you don't just have to run and manually look at it, you can actually make the AI do that for you. So is customer churn classification problem? Yes or no? So You Are a Number was about, you could be the number that is an audience here watching, a learner. You could be, there could be behavior analytics. Maybe LinkedIn has more analytics inside behind this. I'm not privy to that. There could be more in terms of a lot of analytics that goes in terms of your in various different departments, how they look at the number. And in the end, we ended up this whole thing of finally you're a number, but you're a customer, right? That each number is a real person, a customer. That's how I look at it. So when I'm seeing the number goes up, that means so many of you are here and listening to me. I would love to make this worthwhile of your time and have a conversation. So coming back, so is customer churn a classification problem? Yes, it can be a classification problem if you have information about customers who churn and customers who don't churn, and you do some kind of machine learning classification to understand what factors are contributing to the churn. It could be a classification problem. If you already have a subscription service, then if the customer drops off or not, if you're looking for patterns in the customer behavior, then it becomes an anomaly problem. So now in the Gen AI world, how do you look at customer churn? So again, you could go into a lot of insights and go into that, but I don't want this topic to be all about customer churn. So if customer churn is of interest to you, I'm happy to do a whole new session with you just on that. But coming back, there are various use cases of Gen AI. Customer churn is one of my favorite ones. But outside of that, I look at lead generation. I look at if you're doing business development, what kind of customers are you targeting? But then it comes to what is the value you're going to create for your customer, right? It doesn't matter. You can say it's churn or lead gen or whatever. But finally, where is the ROI? And what is the AI doing for the customer? And so that brings me back to this week when I'm wrapping up this course. One of my thought process was when I'm teaching with no code, right? Because I'm thinking you're doing various different job functions. Like I've seen my customers, I've seen my students, and the data scientist or an engineer might use coding to actually build the product, but you don't need to be coding if you are doing any of the other functions like what we were talking about. So my thought process on this whole no code is that you don't need coding, not because you don't know to code, but because you're going to use the tool to test out a hypothesis. So that's how it comes back to our discussion on ROI, whether it is customer churn or lead gen or BD or product experience, and you're thinking what capabilities are the customers looking for, or you're understanding the behavior demographics of the customer so you can serve them better in any form, you offer new services, or you're going to go to new markets, any kind of thing. You're actually looking at testing your hypothesis. That's what you do. And I have worked in mobile growth at eBay, and what my role was to head the analytics function, and I would serve business units, business managers who are growth managers from various different regions, and they would come with a hypothesis and say, is this a good idea? Let's test it out. And we would say, instead of build out a product feature, because my other customers were product managers, I would say, what's your hypothesis? Let us see what the data says. Now you can make AI do that. So my head has been in this whole enterprise ROI. And I'm going back to last fall when I saw people excited upon OpenAI, but little cautious. And then I saw a whole RAG, come up in the scene with using enterprise data as this extra data store that you're going to do a layer on top of an existing LLM model, and not feed it out into the internet for it to go kind of learn competitive information. So the LLM is what we are getting as foundation model, and then RAG is your data store. And Amazon has Rufus as a chatbot. There's a whole bunch of chatbots that are all doing that with your customer information, right? So that has gone into. So with that, I'm just thinking customer service is still number one on the top of use cases out there. But what else are we doing in the world of generative AI that is giving you ROI? So I'm curious about that. I would like to hear from you. How I'm curious about, is somebody doing this for process improvement? Innovation is a very big bucket, right? Innovation is you're coming up with new ideas, fresh ideas, and you're trying to extend something that already exists, or you're creating something that doesn't exist. So you could be going to a new market, you might be creating a new product, you might be solving a problem with a whole new way of thinking, or you could just make an incremental change from improving processes for operational efficiency. So if your goal is revenues and growing your business, you could go in any of those directions, right? So I'm curious, are you working on process improvement? Because finally, as long as you have the data, you feed it to the AI, it's going to solve that for you, and you're going to go test it and scale it. That's kind of the easy part of doing this, right? So I'm curious if you're working on anything in the process world. And as I was looking into this, I ended up running into my friend Scott. I'm going to show you a conference Scott is hosting. Let me see if I have that open here. Otherwise, I'll open it for you in a minute. Here we go. So let me share the screen. Let me come back. So okay. So this is the conference from InnoLead, and it's called Leveraging AI, Creating Real Business Value. And I'm not kidding. I've been talking about this with you all and enterprise and value creation for so long. And, this has been top of my mind. And I connected with my friend Scott Kessner. And I know Scott from a couple decades back, I would say, when, the web and e-commerce was picking up and things were happening. We used to have this content and commerce, what is driving what. And Scott is a pioneer in that space. He was able to grasp the actual nugget of wisdom with anything that any company is doing. And by asking smart question, he's a fantastic writer. And lead is led by Scott. And so I had this conversation about, who's really creating business value. All these different LLM models are created, all these layers of technologies, this shifting, this ecosystem is happening. I love this creative. I don't think it's done by an AI. It's so beautiful. It's beautiful. It's kind of intoxicating. It just like makes me like want to follow this and then go wherever it is taking me. It keeps coming back like that. It's beautiful. So leveraging AI is the question we are all trying to figure out. It's not just about, have you tried this latest new LLM? That's great. But where are we creating real business value? I think that is what enterprise is pondering about. So this conference is on May 16th. It's a one-day conference in Sunnyvale, in close to my world. And it has a very interesting lineup of speakers. And if you actually scan through this, you will find the word innovation show up many, many times. And this is just that was my first observation when I looked at this. Like, the kind of roles everybody is doing are real innovators out in different industries. There are some technology companies. There are the various people from various different industries. There's Airbus, MasterCard, Silicon Valley Bank. Then you have technologies and cloud providers. You have Google Cloud and Amazon and these insurance companies. I'm a very, very big fan of iRobot. I usually, I try to be very agnostic, and I'm not, endorsing any particular brand, but I love the mix of people who are here, so that, in one day, if you have to learn what is how to build the ROI, I would like to be a fly in the wall in this discussion in this conference. So iRobot is one of those pioneers who created the robot Roomba, and I am a customer, and so I can talk to you about iRobot. I have not worked with these other people, so I cannot talk about them. But iRobot is like a vacuum cleaner, right? So that's how they started. And then there have been other vacuum cleaners, and then there's a market for this whole robots, right? Not just home vacuum cleaners, but how do you bring that in warehouses? Are you bringing that in warehouses for fulfillment, that it will go? And we did a tour of one of the visits of a company here, not iRobot, somebody else, about how to flex electronics, where we figure out how do we, I'm trying to get out of this screen, of the share. Yeah. So how do you actually build these robots so that they can go fetch things from the warehouse? And then it can either do it for fulfillment, which means you buy things from Amazon or anywhere else for shopping, and it goes and picks the right thing so that it can put it and it can move. And I had actually done a live stream of this. If you're interested, it's on my YouTube. I took a bunch of my students. Periodically, I go on these visits, and I'm very fascinated by robots. I do like to go hug robots. And this was not a huggable robot. This was this big robot, which was like a square shape with no face. And it was just, it did have cameras, if you can call it face, but it was, they were stacking up things on it, and it was able to carry heavy load, and it was driving autonomously. The autonomous part was fascinating for me. And at that point, it was Flex Robotics, and it was doing the fulfillment piece. The other thing that you can do in the warehouse space, the other industry that is adopting robot, the way use case that's evolving is, while people are making things in a factory setting, there is so much inventory that's out on the floor. So, and they don't know at any point in time what is out there. They must have purchased a lot of things in inventory. They might have used a lot of things in the whole manufacturing process, but any given time, what is the state of the inventory, what is left, there'll be things first dropped off, smaller parts might be on the floor, something might have come in and stacked up. So these robots are basically like cameras watching to count the inventory of different items and organize them and tell you what is missing, what needs to be bought, at what rate at which things are being consumed. So that's the other thing that these CSR robots are doing, either for fulfillment or other. So coming back, I don't know, I would love to hear from the iRobot founder, because they started as a home robot. I have two of those, one regular dry vacuum Roomba, and then there is one more, I think it's called Bravo, which is like a wet one. It moves around my kitchen and cleans the floor. And they did a few of those. And then now they've sold to Amazon. So when they're doing Amazon, which kind of fulfillment? I think it's the fulfillment, buying things, ordering things so that they could, ship it to us faster. But it's I would love to know how AI is used. Where is the ROI? It's not just the cost of here is the robot building cost, and now we are going and serving fulfillment customers. There is more to it. Side of things. So I want to come back. People, numbers. So do you work in the robot space? I'm curious what industry. I just gave you a list of industry from the conference, and I'm seeing numbers go up. So welcome, whoever is joining me new. I've been talking about enterprise ROI use cases. One question I've asked you is, do you use AI for process improvement? I am curious to see whether somebody's doing that. The other thing is whether you are what the different use cases are. I was just sharing a conference called, Lead, and we were talking about various different use cases as I'm looking at the different speakers there, because my students work in various industries, and it's amazing. It's wonderful because I like shiny objects and I like new LLMs and I like drag, I like new technologies. But what are we doing with that? What are we building with that? What kind of use cases are you trying out? And how does that translate to ROI? It doesn't have to translate to ROI today when you're like trying out new technology, but it has to go towards something that it has to solve a problem for somebody. Only then it'll scale from pilot and it'll go to something bigger, so that you can, make a bigger investment to keep growing your business. So I'm curious. I see more people joining in. Thank you, everybody. So that is one. I promised that I'm going to cover two topics. One was the enterprise ROI. I've been talking about that a lot. And I want to give a shout out to Bonaventure. So let me see if I have the YouTube open, because he was our speaker. I'm coming back to share. He has launched a book. Beautiful book. I started reading it. This is Bonaventure.
From all over the world.
This is Yash hosting the weekly WED. So I'm going to this mode.
Giving back to the society from which we have understood a lot.
Okay. I'm going to go see whether I can show a little bit of Bonaventure's.
Could solve a problem by going through different roads, right? Like they say, all road leads to Roma. So that's the way I decided to shift now to computer science, because I didn't want to be a teacher.
Okay, so this is where he's giving his background. So I'm going to stop the share, because Bonaventure is actually a top-notch researcher in the language AI world. And he was our weekly WED speaker at Business School of AI. And if you're just attending my Sudha live, because I know more people are coming in, this is where I get to meet my students, and we get to have conversations and with invited guests from around the globe. And Bonaventure has built out technologies to make LLM accessible to African languages. I know Africa is many countries, but there are many families of languages within Africa, but he is found that overall that they were considered low resource languages, and he's created layers of technologies. He's created a LLM for it, but he's also created other tokenization technologies and the like. So Bonaventure has launched his book. So this Weekly Wed was more a conversation about Bonaventure's journey, because it's very fascinating. Bonaventure, I'm going to find him on LinkedIn because that might be an easier way for you to find him and follow his work, because he has done a lot. So there's a Google Scholar. There is a GitHub. He seems to have shared a lot of things. Be so good they can't ignore you. That's beautiful. Okay, so he has actually launched his new book. Sec. This is the book. Sorry. It's just showing the book here. This is called Outshining the Odds. I bought it. It's Kindle book, and it's very amazing because it tells about his journey. Okay, and he's a very, very, very positive person. I love that about him. And at Global South in AI, when we go to New Rips once a year, that's the nonprofit I work on with Susanna Raj. Bonaventure was our first ever keynote speaker, and he presented his work on African models and what he's doing in that space. And how he got there was very fascinating. And what odds he has to beat, that's what he's calling it, as outshining the odds. So I would recommend his book. I would recommend his work. You at least follow him on LinkedIn and see, what interests you, because he was amazing. And you can. This was the background. This was the background of what Bonaventure had put in his profile, the one I was showing you when I showed you the book. So that was the other thing that happened in the Weekly Wed. So you can look at that on my YouTube. Some of you are actually watching this on YouTube. Some of you are on LinkedIn. It's right there on YouTube if you want to see it. Otherwise, we'll put everything back on the newsletter, on the Jump Day newsletter, right, as I mentioned earlier. So one of the changes that I've done recently is we used to stream weekly Wednesday also here, and I decided that I want to have a more close group in discussion on things. So I don't want this to be like I come and tell you stuff and you're listening and then you think I have to go learn this, because the whole idea of learning is, like AI is built in industry, we all have to come together. That's how we will learn. And so I would like, so that's what we've decided. So we are going to put, we are sharing Zoom. There's no cost or anything. It's free as always. But we would like you to come on Zoom and have a conversation and share your perspective. If you want to be quiet, you can watch and listen. Some days you don't feel like talking, that's okay too. But we decided that I'm just not going to keep putting out too much live streams. This is the fun live stream I'm going to be doing with you so that we can have a conversation and I can get to know, where you're coming from, what your perspectives are, what kind of things you want to see from me. That's very important for me. So one of the two topics I promised is one on the enterprise ROI. I have ideas, I am meeting with people, I'm working on stuff, but I still have a lot of questions. I want to see who is making money, what are the challenges, what are the areas where certain industries, certain use cases are more applicable, certain industries are transitioning straight from existing AI, like fintech is going in that direction, healthcare is going in that direction, education is adopting AI, it's new and they're just adopting Gen AI. So I'm curious about, what you're working on, especially with enterprise use cases. So that is one. And the what I was telling you about Bonaventure's work ties back to language AI. So one of my newer projects that I'm actually gearing up and getting started is about teaching a group of girls. I've been talking about this project, my interest to do this. Finally, I'm working on a grant, and this is happening from Global South in AI along with Susanna Raj. And the idea is, and Yine Yenki, and you must have seen Yine Yenki mention this project at Women's Planning in the beginning of the year on International Women's Day. All that is on YouTube also if you want to go take a look at that. And Yine Yenki is quite a force from South Sudan, and she runs Go Girls and teaches girls to bring them into STEM. So we're partnering with her and building out a curriculum to teach girls, a group of girls, LLM, AI, Gen AI, and get them to build AI machine translation for a low resource language. In this case, it's Bari. And a low resource language means the language does not have enough translation in English. And there are techniques and methods on how we can actually go build out the tokenization and the embedding so that we can do the machine translation for these languages. And so we kind of embarked with one language, one low resource language. That's the first one. So I'm very excited about this. And I found out that there is something called, let me know what it is. It is called Day of AI. I'm going to share that. I just found this just before I got started. So I don't know who runs this specifically, but MIT has offered some courses in here. So the idea is called the dayofai.org, and it says AI is for everyone, and they want to teach students everywhere. And since I'm teaching this group of Bari students, and I have so many others who are interested in teaching girls, all kinds of students from everywhere in the world, and there are different challenges, right? And when you say, and there have been a lot of girls who code, there have been code.org, a lot of coding exercise. But when you say AI, I just realized when I put this curriculum for this project to teach the girls in South Sudan, that there are limitations on bandwidth, on how much technology they know, what can we give as foundation, and then the compute in accessing LLMs. And if they don't have anything as a low resource language, where do you start with the tokenization? And, for me, I don't come from a language world, and I've been dabbling with it, and I'm very fascinated by linguist thinking on of AI and how they are contributing to the world of AI. So it's very fascinating to think about how AI thinks about language, and the language people think about language from hundreds of years of research, where words have meaning, and in AI, words are tokens, or the chunks of words are broken into tokens, and it's not even AI. And this week, one of the things I found out as it prepared for my curriculum is there is a tokenization, which is a bunch of words chunked up into tokens that exists, right, by OpenAI or Google, Microsoft, Mistral, everybody. But how many tokens? They give you a number. We have 50,000 tokens, 37,000 tokens. Who decides what these tokens are? How many tokens? What is the strategy on breaking a word into a certain way that it is chunked up? It's very different. So when you see the LLM that comes from Google and Gemini, or LLM that comes out of OpenAI and all the GPT families, they all are in the same tokenization. The tokenization is done in a very ad hoc way, where they decide this is the vocabulary, or this is the dictionary of the words, or the chunk of words that we are going to build this LLM from. And there's no common tokenization technique. And so it's very interesting for me to say, there's got to be some rhyme or reason, some logic on why things are done a certain way. And linguists have been doing this for years. So teaching that to anybody new is quite a challenge, and teaching that to people who are new and for students is a unique opportunity. So I found this very fascinating. And then I found that within this, MIT has 3 courses. Specifically, I like the course that MIT has that has one. So this is dayofai.org. I'll put all these links out in the newsletter, guys. So don't worry about it. If you want, I can actually say right here, this is the dayofai.org. But I found that more than just this teaching anything, people have to be motivated to learn that. So you need to give them an interesting use case, right? When you teach students and children, what are you giving them? And the Day of AI has collected courses from everybody else, and MIT has a very good one on climate AI. And so that is something that I'm going to put in the newsletter. I'm going to try it. So when I make a recommendation here, I'm expecting some of you to try that, and I expect you to come back, give me a feedback. So I would love for you to try that and tell me whether you're running a school, you're part of some group, or you just have kids and you're teaching them, or whatever you're doing. If you're and I would love to collaborate with you, and I would like to know other people who are working on low resource languages, other people who are teaching students, other people who are building curriculum. Because I realized I was talking to somebody new who joined my team, and they were asking me, what do you do? And people outside know me as I write, talk, teach, I do a lot of different projects. But I'm thinking I'm kind of doing similar things because there's a method to the madness. And, at any given time, I'm focusing on, one technology and trying to demystify that and bring more people inclusively into that area. And then I realized tactically what I'm doing a lot of teaching. That's okay. But I'm building curriculum. I'm building a lot of different curriculum. So I kind of have started this process of standardizing my curriculum. I've built a whole bunch of AI ethics curriculum. So if you're working in the curriculum space, if you're trying this out, if you have feedback on any of this, I would love to check it out. I would like to kind of, get that feedback to bring that back into my courses, especially if you're working on anything related to building curriculum or teaching students AI or Gen AI. Or if you're working on low resource languages, even if you're in industry and you're saying, okay, I want to bring this other low resource language that has been left out, I would like to work with you and see. And especially if you're a data scientist and you know the method to the madness of why the tokenization in your company is done a certain way, you definitely need to talk to me, because I want to understand that. And because it looks like we need to build new tokenization or borrow a tokenization from a parent language and then build out new embeddings on the layer of tech. For even getting to the curriculum, we need to build this layer of tech. So I'm curious to see what is the optimal way to go about that. So I would love to hear from you. And I want to leave you with a quiz before I close out for today. If you are in the AI, if you have learned Gen AI, and if you are working with any company or you're trying to build out a use case, I've been asking you what use case you're using, that's fine. But if you're, since I'm talking about embeddings, is there any particular language that you are missing that you want to give to your customers, and you're thinking, okay, this is all great, I've got this 5-7 languages that is available readily, and is there anything else that I would like to see as a language that will serve my customer or a certain region, or just want inclusiveness? Are you even thinking about it? I would like to hear from you. Other than this, I have a bunch of jobs and other resources that I'm going to put out in the newsletter for you. So the technology I kept telling you of that Bonaventure has built is called Afro LM. And I'm going to share that. There's a bunch of even other events. There's a Mexican NLP summer school that is co-located with the NAACL and MECO that is coming in June. So I'll put all of these out in the newsletter. I'm going to share some reading material. There is one very good one about demystifying the EU Act from Puneet Bhatia. So I'll put these in the newsletter, so we have more interesting things for you to kind of continue on your learning journey. Okay, so with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you, everybody. I've left you with a question. What kind of use case are you working on enterprise AI? And if you end up attending InnoLead, I would like to get your feedback also from there. And if you're working on teaching students or adding low resource languages to the general generative AI pool, I love you for it, and talk to me. I would like to collaborate with you, learn from you, and make this better, because there are 7,000 plus languages in the world, and the world of LLM supports like 200 of them, and I think about 35 of them are really accurate. Rest of them are kind of okay. Others don't even exist. And so, we need to kind of speed this up, get some better method to go do this. So with that, I'm going to wrap up. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe, and I will see you online. Bye. And I'm seeing more people come in. So tag your friends, come back. And if you're joining new, we've been talking about enterprise AI use cases and teaching students and AI, and how to bring the world of languages into AI in a very inclusive way. And, what is the method to the madness for making that happen for world languages. So, and everything that I've shared here will be in the Jamte newsletter, bit.ly Jamte newsletter. And tag your friends, add your comments, and we will continue our conversation. And I will see you all. Stay safe. Bye.